Let's close up 9 o'clock, get her started, call meeting to order, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
We've had an agenda submitted to us, any additions or corrections to that?
I would like to make a change and take item number 4 out of the consent agenda and put it into the action.
There. To action. So that will be added as action item number 8 then.
I'd like to take out consent agenda number 3 and put it on action then as well.
Number 3 to action, okay? And that'll become action number 9. Okay. Any other additions or corrections?
Just a question,
Go ahead.
number 6. Initiate a competitive search for a 1-0 deputy recorder. What's that open for?
Do you want to have that in when we get to the consent agenda, or do you want to
Well, that's fine.
possibly adjust it?
It's just a question there.
Oh, okay.
Is what? I mean, you got one, number 2 is a hire for that position, and we got another one opening, or? Tess isn't here today.
She's here.
One's a reporter, one's president.
Commissioners. Number 6 is for the recorder's office.
And number 2
Sorry.
is,
That's
My
okay.
mistake. I thought it was auditor, sorry.
so you answer your question then.
Yep, that's fine.
So action item, excuse me, consent item number 3, we moved, and consent number 4 also be moved to, if I say 8 and 9 respectively.
Yep.
Okay. With those changes, any others?
Make a motion.
With the changes.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Approve previous minutes from November 12th. Oops, December 12th. Very good. December 12th. We got that corrected.
So moved.
Greg did. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Next will be public comment. At this point, we open it up for public comment. For the address the board. Anybody wish to address the board? Yes. Opposed.
I have a question, just wondering if you're familiar with Governor Bernie Carlson, former governor, is holding a statewide water forum tomorrow. I sent it. to
You sent an email on that yet?
So I just wondered if you were attending that.
I'll probably attend the Zoom. It's a Zoom meeting, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, you were.
Public health is.
It's on the wall.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, thank you, Rose. Any other public comment at this time? Thing on the screen. Okay, moving forward, appointments. We have no appointments. Moving on to consent agenda, we have 5 consent agenda items. We have moved 3 and 4 to action. Feeling of the board.
I'll move to approve the 5 consent agenda item.
A second. So moved. Second, other discussion. There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Moving on to action items. We have a total of 9 now. First one will be consider accepting the highest bid per acre for renting cropland that surrounds the new taxi lanes at the airport, entering into a 2-year lease. So, Brian,
Yes, so we went out to advertise for crop rent lease. This is for the 5.69 acres of land that is adjacent to the new hangar taxi lanes that will not be used with the initial hangar development. Whether they're public or private hangars. Either way, this is land that we don't anticipate impacting. So we want to rent the land for a 2-year lease. It'll have the same end date after 2 years as the other airport crop leases. And then after that time's up, then we'll look at maybe doing a 5-year lease on this, like what we do for the rest of the crops. So we had one bid submitted for that, and it was from Nick Hoscheit at $205 per acre for a total of $1,166.45 annual lease payment. And then we did have the lease agreement was sent out with the ad and everything, so all the terms within that lease agreement would apply. And with that, one of the things that was talked about previously was the real estate taxes that get paid for the rest of it. The crop renter has always paid the taxes on the other parcel, so that is in that draft lease agreement that was sent out with the rental agreement.
But there isn't taxes, there isn't.
So I believe for this year, there is not taxes. There are taxes the following year.
Not for 24, but for 25.
Correct.
And it's 5.56 acres.
5.69.
69. So. Of the 7 we bought. We've only utilized. Acre and quarter.
Yes, because some of the stuff is online that we previously already owned, or we had some rights over it. And then we didn't build the full extent of the taxi lanes for this first phase. This is to get, essentially what the FAA will approve is enough pavement for the taxi lanes to accommodate hangars that they feel will be built within the next 5 years. So if we build up hangars, then we'll need to do another project to build more taxi lanes to utilize more of the land we purchased.
It's a phasing process.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for the renting of the land.
Reasonable.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried.
Thank you.
Number 2, approving acquisition up to 3 vehicles for public health and human services. Mr. Burns.
I put quote sheets from 2 county providers, one from Sleepy Hollow and one from the outlet down in Hoka. Each had 3 vehicles on it. Sleepy Hollow has 2 Chevy Equinoxes and a Buick Encore. And the Tri-State Auto has a Dodge Journey, a Nissan Rogue, and a GMC Acadia. The Equinoxes from Sleepy Hollow are a reasonably mid-sized vehicle. A little bigger than the Jeeps that we have now. The Encore is a very small Buick. The Dodge Journey is similar in size or a little bigger than the Equinox. The Nissan Rogue is a car-ish SUV, and the Acadia is a bigger SUV. And looking at it, the Journey at 32,000 miles is a good buy. The Equinox with 40,000 miles at 21.5 is reasonable. The Chevy Equinox with at 24,500. We can buy a new Equinox on the Minnesota bidder list for not much more than that. but you gotta wait the 3 to 5 or more months to get one. So I guess from my perspective, I'd recommend the 2 Equinoxes in the Journey be the acquisition items.
Is there any warranty on the Journey?
I didn't have any information on warranty.
How about for Sleepy Hollow?
I didn't have any information on that. I just asked for a price. And usually they, you get 30 or 60
Well,
days.
that's what I was gonna say, usually like for a GM dealer like that, they provide a 30-day warranty or something. But we don't.
I didn't ask for that. I just asked for the price.
And this is gonna be ARPA money.
Yep. I would anticipate using ARPA money for this. And not using any of that 100,000, those $250,000 amounts that we got from the state. Rather put that over into the holding fund for future vehicles.
Looking at the number 2 on the Tri-State there, Nissan Rogue. At that price, size wise, again, what was that size? You say it's kind of a mid-size, what?
It's a smoother looking vehicle. From the lines, but it's a little bit smaller than an Equinox. Crossover style. Yeah. It is a hatchback as well. The hatchback is kind of important so you can get things in the back. You're not dealing with a trunk, you're dealing with a hatchback to get things in and out of the vehicle.
You're looking at the Equinox, the 21 Equinox from Sleepy, the 20 Equinox from Sleepy, and the Journey from Tri-State are the 3 that you.
That would be my
Mentioned.
recommendation.
But that 21 Equinox must be pretty good. Decked up pretty good, or whatever, it'd be 24.5.
Right. Used prices are somewhat high. Otherwise, we buy 2 and order 1 and wait till we get it. Or buy these 3, order 3 to take next year's place. And trade one of the new 3s over to Health and Human Services and take one of these and put it in the fleet. We got flexibility now.
And this will start the transition. From Enterprise, getting away from Enterprise to.
None of the Health and Human Service cars are actually lease vehicles. They're all,
Right, these are older.
but it would start the process.
Like the idea of doing that, so I guess it's just to choose which 3 of the 6.
I think we should take the 3 from Sleepy Hollow as warranty. But be nice to know, sure. But we gotta make a decision today, because these cars are gonna be gone.
Right.
Well, the Dodge Journey's got 32,000. This one Equinox has got 40,000.
The Encore's got 39,000, so the Journey's got the lower miles. Yeah. Anytime you buy used, you're taking a risk, but
Oh, yeah.
Journey's an 18, so it's a little bit older too.
but it's low miles.
We don't put a lot of miles. 10,000 maybe a year. We give that many for them.
We must put a fair amount of miles because the cars that we have now have high miles.
Any comment, Tom?
I think any of these vehicles would be a significant improvement over our four-door sedans. So all of them are much older and much higher miles. When I talked to Commissioner Burns yesterday, I said, what we're looking for is vehicles that would be kind of a small SUV, something with a hatchback. That's why we've kind of looked to the Equinoxes. All-wheel drive, as we drive on some slippery roads with children, others in the car. But any of these would be a significant improvement. You know, we've done some work on trying to come up with what a rotation would look like with our vehicles once we do this. So newer would be somewhat helpful, but I think we could work with any of them. I think the question too was how many miles. I don't have a total amount of miles right at the tip of my tongue here, but I do know that we're doing more driving and certainly more than we did during the pandemic. There was a period of time there during the pandemic when we had very few miles.
Well, what do you guys wanna do?
Are these Equinoxes all-wheel drives?
Yeah.
No, that's, are they?
What about the Journey?
The Journey is all.
That's probably a 4x4, I would think. It
All
could
the
be a
ones-
two-wheel, I guess.
All of, no, each vehicle shown below is all-wheel drive. For the Journey, it's all-wheel drive.
I guess you've seen these vehicles and, my feeling is to go with the recommendation that Commissioner Burns has, is that he's seen them. That, the Buick looks to be a good deal, but, I don't know if that has the things that we need. Equinoxes are. Sometimes you can interchange things if you need to use parts too, I guess for lack of a better word. Get to be similar.
Journey that has a hatchback? Yeah. It's very similar in size to the Equinox. It's a Journey. My daughter's got a Journey. They like it. It's been a good car for them. They've got 90-some thousand miles on it. It's,
Got a Hemi.
no. It's the four-cylinder
Forget it.
Journey that is much safer for my granddaughter to drive.
Thoughts, questions?
I'm gonna make a motion that we acquire the 2021 Chevy Equinox, the 2020 Chevy Equinox from Sleepy Hollow, and the 2018 Dodge Journey from Tri-State Auto.
That is a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second. Further discussion?
Is there any way to confirm the warranty between the two dealers and all?
Well, I've been trying to find it on the site here and it doesn't.
You want to stipulate that the acquisition is dependent upon the 30-day warranty, say.
Yeah, 30 days would be nice. Cover our backs a little bit.
I can amend my motion to include that they must have a 30-day warranty.
Well, if they don't, then,
Then it'll come back next week.
I mean, I'm sure,
I would,
Oh, well, my wife just bought a car and they put a warranty in it for 30,000.
most of the time they'll do so many days, so many miles, type of thing, so.
well,
I would think we're safe with that.
this 21 Equinox, there might be some factory warranty left, maybe. We're probably running, is it 3 years, 36?
Might be.
And there might be a few miles on there, you had a warranty.
The Journey is what, a 2018, that's older vehicle.
Yep.
The
Older vehicle,
Buick,
low miles.
the Buick is probably older, but sometimes the dealers put an extension on them, that's why I think better go with all Sleepy Hollow. That's not.
No. So you can vote it down and do something different. That's just the motion.
Comments, any more questions, comments, thoughts?
Right now you got it with the 30 days.
Okay,
I can amend my motion to say that it specifically requires a 30-day warranty.
No, I just questioned if it was.
It wasn't in the original. I have amended it to include the 30 days.
Yeah.
You agree to that, Jeff?
Okay.
Okay. It does include the 30-day warranty.
for those three.
So then if it doesn't happen, then we're.
And I'll be
come back
talking,
again.
I'll
and
be
look at
talking
these
to you
papers
next
and
week.
be gone.
I'll be talking to you next.
We're dealing with.
If Sleepy Hollow does, we'll buy those two. If Tri-State does not, then we won't buy that one.
Clarified.
But I leave it in Bob's hands, wherever we get the best warranty.
Do the best we can, yeah. With no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, or nay? Carry. Okay, thank you.
Research.
Next is number 3, consider approving amendment to the current Southeast Regional Crisis Center governance agreement.
All right, first, a little bit of history here. 3 years ago, 3+ years ago, we worked with our 10-county region, the Crest region for adult mental health initiatives. And we were able to leverage bonding dollars to get a regional crisis center built in Rochester and Olmsted County. It was kind of an unprecedented, it is an unprecedented effort, which is a collaborative effort between Mayo, Olmsted Medical, NAMI, and the 10 counties. And so at that time, they put together a governance agreement for that organization. And that governance is coming to an end. It was a 3-year governance. They did not have in that governance agreement kind of a continuation of those terms in the governance for at the end of a term. It will be in the next. But as a result of that, that current governance comes to an end as the end of this month. So this is an extension to that as we are working through some details, and there have been many things that have changed since we started this project several years ago, not the least of which is a pandemic and just the things you learn when you open something up. We are a partner. Houston County is part of the Crest region, and Crest Human Service Directors form the board of Crest. Currently, I serve on the CERC board. I've been on that board for, I think, 4 or 5 months. So I'm relatively new to that. Each of the sponsoring partners, Mayo, Olmsted Medical, Crest counties, and NAMI have representation on that board. So there's a variety of different things that we're wrestling with. Probably the biggest thing is the hard dollars that went to the project in the beginning have changed over time as they were anticipated. And so hammering some of that out is the basis for the need for this extension. Overall, this has been a good project. We've had people who have been served through CERC. I would say our utilization isn't as anywhere near what it is with Olmsted County or with some of the counties that are a little closer to Rochester, but it's been a good tool for us to have, which is closer than places were prior to this. In addition to this extension, we're approving, the document says we're approving attachment A, which is funding strategy. Our portion of the Crest counties is pretty small. It's based on population. We comprise 4.3% of that population. So of the $107,000 that Crest counties are contributing to this in the coming 3 years, our amount is $4,601 a year. So here today to be able to get our board's approval, as all county boards will be approving this extension. I'll be coming back to you at a later date with revised governance, presumably for another 3-year period.
You've been in this for 3 years already?
Yeah. Doesn't seem like it, but we are. Time is flowing.
Okay, 3-year agreement, how much per year?
This isn't the 3-year agreement yet. This is
An
just an extension of the current one so that we can hammer out details of that 3-year agreement. But we wanted to put our dollars forward, as did Mayo and some of the other sponsoring partners. And So in addition to this extension, we're making the commitment of $107,000 a year between those 10 counties. I think that's in your packet.
Well, being that we've been in it for 3 years already. I'll make a motion that we stay into this amendment with the Southeast Regional Crisis Center.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I'll be back presumably sometime in the next month or so to bring you the full 3-year agreement going forward from 24 through, I believe, 26. So,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, number 4, consider County Attorney John's 2024 salary proposal submitting and supporting memorandum and set the Houston County Attorney's salary for 2024.
Yes, Attorney Yant, is not able to make today's meeting. He submitted a memorandum, a multi-page memorandum to the board for your consideration. And, I believe his request is listed on page 7 of that. Where his salary be increased to $135,000.
Lord. Have you had a chance to read over the documents that were sent out with the packet there last week?
Yes. This documentation is good. As far as where we're at versus other counties versus public defenders. Just have a little trouble with the 10% increase.
I guess, what did we have? Did we have anything budgeted,
3% is budgeted.
Carol?
I believe it's 3% plus
3%
step
across.
equivalency. Is that correct?
It was just 3%.
Okay.
Oh, not a step. The one thing I would point out on Attorney Yant's behalf is in 2018, 2019, 2021. He did not have any increases during that time frame.
And that was his own choice.
This is his choice to go to 135.
You know,
I'll make a motion that we give him a 3% raise like everybody else.
Well, that's what's in the budget.
Yeah.
When you look at the staffing, as far as the pay schedules that we have, 3% by step and 3.5% COLA, or the other way around. It ends up at 6.5%. If we went to the 6.5%, it would be, in his case, $4,354.77 more. And that doesn't get up to what he wants, but it would be a 6.5% increase, bringing him up to 132,000 something.
132, 641.60.
Okay.
That's the non-represented, consistent with the non-represented wage grid for an E82 step 7.
On that pay scale or that grid that we have for the E82 position. with 6 years experience, it goes 63.77 per hour. And then back here on. Let me get just one more step here. On 2023, it's 59.82. That's year 5, so. Just going one step up here. So is it 3%?
So I made a motion.
that's the motion on the floor is 3%.
Did we get a second?
Second that.
Okay, no, and
Now we can have more discussion.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Sorry.
So
So 3% or 3.5 is kind of the steps.
No,
I was
no.
Looking here.
3% or
The
Well, that was
steps are,
talking about 60.
a step is a 3.5%, but they're taken in consideration here. Elected officials aren't on the grid.
No.
Correct?
Correct. It has just been used by the board as a guideline
Right.
for some pay parity. But the statute controls, not the grid.
So elected or not on the okay, sense. But we use it as a guide. Trying to maintain,
Historically, you have used it as a guide for the last several years.
Okay.
Mhm.
further discussion.
The only reason I bring it up is we are on the low end compared to regional counties, Wabasha, Belmont.
Well, maybe their jails are full, ours are empty.
Well, it isn't a jail thing. But
I think longevity is important too, and he's been here a long time and there's got the experience, he's doing extra duties because of the shortage in the department. Maybe some thoughts on that. Eric, you had-
And yes, for your
Wait,
reference, commissioners, the general office responsibilities are located in his memorandum on pages 2 and 3, so it would be on criminal felony work.
Which contract work,
does he do contract work?
he reviews contracts.
Well, it's important to note too that we've had to hire outside counsel for some land use issues with hiring of Jay Squires.
Yep.
Also, so for outside work for some public data requests. So we still have expense on that those situations as well as in the past.
Okay. We have a motion for a 3% increase and seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, here's how I look at it. It's fair. 3% is figured in, factored in. And that's what the rest of the employees in his department are getting. And
Not
so,
true.
yeah, what's that?
Not true.
The rest of the employees in his department aren't getting a 3% COLA.
Assistant attorney, I think, is getting a 3%, but the rest of the people are getting the step plus the COLA.
I believe they're at I haven't looked recently, but it would be reasonable to assume that they are at their
If they're not
maximum
step.
step.
They're at their max. So. Plus 3% at 100 and. What's he getting? 124,000, 125,000, and we put considerably different than 3% at 50,000.
No doubt.
If we take him on to get the 150, we give him the 3%. Okay,
Well, the question is, he's an elected official, so he doesn't have a whole lot to say about it. He made his request to go up to parity with other county attorneys in the region. I understand that. I don't agree with the 10% increase, but I would personally consider the 3 and the 3.5
6.5.
to make it 6.5.
further discussion.
I'd ask that we vote by roll.
Agreed. Yep.
District 1,
No,
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
No,
District 4,
No.
District 5.
Yes.
okay. We have further discussion on this issue.
I'll make another motion.
Okay, motion,
The motion would be to increase county attorney wage by 6.5%. Which brings it up to, what'd you say it was? 132, something.
132, 641 and 60 cents.
less than this request.
Correct.
Motion is made for a 6.5, was it?
Yes.
Correct. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that with the terms that Bob used, because I like that formula with the service.
Mhm.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion.
So then this will be another addition to our
Is
budget some more.
That is correct.
This is gonna be add to our budget deficit.
Correct.
Slightly. Further discussion. Roll call again, please.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
No,
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes,
District 5.
No. Okay. Next is number 5, consider County Sheriff Sweatberg's 2024 salary proposal submitted and supporting memorandum. And set the Houston County Sheriff's wages for 2024. Sweatberg and Test.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I just spoke to you several weeks ago about my salary. Here again, initially requested. I'm asking for it to be increased to 125,000 for 2024. As stated in my memo, let's go through real quick. Approximately 3 years ago, the county did a wage study comparison. And for the union employees, they did not include the elected officials. Make an adjustment there, so that's where I'm looking at, make an adjustment of that. So I did get the 17 counties that you also used. And the average for the 17 counties for 2023 was 123,894.26. I also gave you a little more data. The 6 counties that are around Houston County population, 3 below us and 3 above us. They're right above us, right below us. Their average was $121,445.83. And I also gave you District 6, which we are in. And their average for sheriffs is $139,454.33. So I really believe it's fair that since the county used 17 counties 3 years ago, I feel that it's appropriate for the elected officials, at least my position, to get the same as the 17 counties. And then I'm just asking for the 3% increase for 2024.
3%.
The-
Correct.
just-
Approximately 3%.
Just-
I rounded it down.
Just to clarify, the numbers that the sheriff is quoting were 2023 numbers, just so, not 2024.
Not asking for a 3% increase. You're asking to be brought up to 101 plus 3%.
How much of an increase would that be, Tess? 7.4%. And that's dollar amount would be, what's the current wage? I guess I'm trying to find that number here.
Current is for 2023 is 113.
113, 042,
be going to
156.
116. Correct?
for 2023.
If you want
Okay,
to,
yeah, but
Oh,
for
if you
twenty
add
twenty-four, you'll be at 116.
116, 433.78
Correct.
would be 3%. I'm sorry, I
want
wasn't tracking your
125.
question. Pardon me, Commissioner?
125,
that's why I just wrote it down, rounded it up to yes. I mean, if you want to do the exact number, I'm fine with that too.
where's Brian? Where are you at with the step similar to what the county attorney would be?
I've
Under the
been
same
upgraded.
formula?
It was upgraded from the beginning.
Mhm.
Um,
For several years.
Right.
our grid has not matched the regional sheriffs.
Correct. Like I also explained that the grids, the banding, I never did a banding for the sheriff. So I'm not sure how the band got set. And there's no job description technically either to set the banding on.
What you're
There's a
saying is
job.
that formula is not up to date.
No, there wasn't a equivalent study for the sheriff in the compensation study. Many, many years ago, there was an analysis. That's how the sheriff's position got to, I believe it's D63. However, that's been well over 10 years, if not longer. But there hasn't been anything in recent years for the elected for an equivalency
So
study.
what's currently in place, you're at the top of it.
Yeah, I'm above the
He
D63.
stepped out if you were on the step system. So those counties that you mentioned that we used for the wage grid study for, the wage study for all the we don't know what those sheriff departments, how they were staffed, how they were put together. And what do they have? Do they have a chief deputy? Do they have a lead jailer? Do they have lieutenants, sergeants? We don't know that, do we?
No, there's very few, a very handful that don't have chief deputies. If they don't have chief deputies, they normally have a personal assistant. The statute allows for one or the other.
We have kind of like that too with their secretaries, don't we?
Yeah, but-
Tech
but-
clerks.
The sheriff actually has their personal assistant.
Yep.
It's not an administrative assistant, it's a sheriff's personal assistant, so it's somewhat similar to the chief deputy.
The comparison, just for clarity, the comparison worth that the county uses, which is a decision band method for our state reporting, is the number of people, the breadth of the roles that you have. It's the breadth of the role that you have, as well as the depth of responsibilities and the risk to the organization, in this case, the county, obviously. That is how they determine the responsibility and the duty and the level for the band. There is some accounting for the number of staff you have, but the more staff you have, it is presumed under that methodology that the broader the responsibility. So having a smaller county with reduced staff would not necessarily, according to our civil service equivalency, would not increase a band. So what they would be looking at, and if we had an equivalent process, would be the breadth of depth of responsibilities as set forth in statute. You are correct, there is no job description because it's statutory by the state of Minnesota.
So your chief of police, what do you get, 3%? I'll make a motion to give him a 3%. Solid. There's a motion for 3%. 3% increase over 13 or 2023 or over 2024. It'll be over 2024, 23.
Well, no,
But make sure
it's 3% from his 23 salary, so it'd be 116. 116,433, I believe.
116,433 and 78 cents.
I'll second that. On the same notion, to be fair with everyone else in his department. The other non-represented employees of the county got 3%. We need to be consistent and fair. Correct?
It depend upon the non-represented employees. Some may have received a step. It covers more than just your confidential employees. It covers your nurses as well. And some of the clericals. So if they are still under,
I'd say most of them were stepped out, aren't they?
correct. But not all. I don't
That would
believe all are.
Fair the same as like county attorney would step other. He wasn't
He-
stepped out.
He isn't stepped out, but we're not supposed to use grids for elected officials. So
I don't use grids for elected officials, but I do look at what the current pay scales are for neighboring counties and counties in general, and we're below that considerably. And I look at it the same as I looked at it from the county attorney's point of view. The 10 or 11%, I'm not in favor of, but the 6.5, 6, the 3 and 3.5 is what I would look at. And that in itself would amount to $7,348 instead of the $3,391. Yes, it does increase our budget. It's a fair compromise as far as the sheriff is concerned. To get him started on the role of getting up to comparable pay for the job that is comparable to other counties in our area and within the state.
How many, the guy's making 125,000, how many years' experience have they got? He's barely got a year.
I have 32 years. experience.
In the department, he's.
He's an appointment, yes, but not a sure.
Correct,
However, you were chief.
correct. I was chief deputy for 4, plus a little bit of interning. Yes.
but you're 1 year into your sheriff's position. You knew what the salary was going into it when you ran for the office. Correct?
Correct. And it's the current salary at that time.
But there's a lot of experience. There's been times when a person was elected sheriff and not even licensed in the past. Is that a fair statement?
But we're not in that situation here.
Not anymore, but you.
I mean,
you
Mark
talk about-
Englet was sheriff for 8 years. He never got a. I mean,
He got a pay increase, didn't he?
This is second year, we got like a 10% increase.
and that, what was the situation with that deal? Where he got a 10%?
That was his position, and he made that argument to the board.
For catch-up time, kind of.
I will say that when looking at positions for the county, the sheriff's office is one office that does have considerable risk exposure. And that runs 2 ways, not just with the individuals that going into a situation necessarily have to wear a protective vest, but also if decisions are made that on Monday morning quarterbacking, if you will, that expose the county, there is a quick decision, it could expose the county to considerable risk of loss as far as liability. And the experience of all those years as being deputy as well as being chief deputy, I think does play an important role in whether or not and the sheriff's pay. And that's simply because of those kinds of decisions when they have to be made. It's different than a lot of our other positions.
Well, we got a motion and a second. More discussion?
So you're advocating as personnel for his increase?
I am just making a comment. I leave that up to the board just as, because when we do look at banding, we look at that risk analysis. And that's what our third party DDA or Gallagher looks at, is the risk exposure as well as the breadth of the responsibility.
Other discussion? Roll call, please. Roll call, vote, please.
District one,
No.
District two,
Yes.
District three,
No.
District four. District five,
Yes.
Okay, that failed. Further discussion or what's the feeling of the board?
I'll make a secondary motion to increase the sheriff's wages by 6.5%, similarly to what we did with the county attorney.
Okay. It's a compromise, it sounds like. Is there a second?
I'll second that because it's underneath the same word. Fairness. Other than the being maxed out on stuff.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
District one,
Yes.
District two,
No, on the fact that it's not fair. The ones that only got 3%. Non-represented.
District three,
Yes.
District four,
Yes.
District five,
No. Moving on. Number 6, consider setting the Board of Commissioners 2024 stipend. Feeling of the board.
I think it stays the same as it is for 2023.
That a motion?
Wait a minute, stipend now. We're talking about the COLA or just their stipend rates?
Well, what are we talking about?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because it says stipend, so that's like rates for when we go to committee meetings and stuff.
It is. Under the Department of Labor, we don't consider it a salary because it would be less than likely minimum wage. But it is whatever your annual, we'll use it for discussion purposes, salary would be compensation, your compensation for the year.
So I can get a whole $600. 3%.
No, Bob's motion was to keep it the same as 23.
Yeah, I know, but including the stipends for the different meetings.
Yes.
If I took out health insurance through the county, I wouldn't even get a check. How are you gonna get anybody to take our jobs? I've got a motion. Is there a second? The motion is to keep our compensation the same. The stipends for committee meetings
The same.
same. I'll second that. Further discussion?
So we just gave two guys 6.5% raises, but we're supposed to take nothing.
Stab the taxpayer in the back, I know that.
Well, no,
Gee,
no, it's not that.
we're not, well, you're giving raises out $6,000, $7,000, $10,000. And we got a measly $600?
We didn't get any.
Well, no, you're voting for nothing, but last year we got a little $600. Don't pay shit.
Well, to Greg's point, this is how I'm looking at this. We don't have an administrator. We're the ones that try to oversee everything. And I'm not gonna do this forever. I feel if we don't raise the pay for the commissioners, you're not gonna get anybody to do this job in a few years. My term's up in 26. Is somebody gonna take time off to go do a $20,000 or $19,000 a year job?
Okay.
And put up with the phone calls and that butt chewings and there's some benefits as well. I like to do the positive things for the county. That's some of the things that why I do this job, but we just handed out $20,000-$30,000 here in raises and we're supposed to get squat. Whatever.
It was 15,
Second it, let's do a vote.
wasn't second.
I second
Oh, you second. It wasn't, it was $15,300 and
I was off.
$436. It's not. Was
Other
just
than
my
truck.
opinion, it was just my opinion as to what. Compensation for the board would be. It's gonna fall in which way you want.
Okay, I'd like a roll call again, please.
District one,
Yes.
District two,
No,
District three,
Yes.
District four,
No,
District five,
We have, that one failed. Is there further question?
boy, I'm tempted. I make a motion to do the 3%, like being fair as everybody else in the county.
I'll second.
I'm tempted to do 6.5, but I'm not getting greedy here, so.
Well, we better not, because we gave 6.5 to everybody else, we can't have 6.5.
So it's a 3% increase for commissioners stipends.
Which is budgeted, correct, Carol?
I think we ought to set the example, but we'll go with
Okay,
that.
we're
Roll
trying
call.
to set an example. By
Which one?
taking 0, everybody else is getting 3, I'm sorry, getting a little upset.
Yeah.
Everybody else getting
We're
their
supposed to
rate.
have. Okay, go ahead. I'd like to have roll call vote.
District one,
No.
District two,
Yes.
District three,
No.
District four,
yes.
District five,
Yes. Motion carried.
Moving on to number 8, which was brought from the consent.
No.
Was action number 8.
1,000.
7, I'm sorry, but that will, I like to. That was my suggestion on my
Okay.
didn't explain, but yeah, number 7 will be tabled until we finish 8 and 9. Thank you. Number 8 is hire Eric Bolt as a 1.0 full-time equivalent probationary highway maintenance specialist, B23, step 6, effective 1 January 2nd, 2024, conditioned on successful completion of background check. Chefs and Brian, both in on this one.
This step was arrived at through an experience evaluation for the candidate and Mr. Bolt. And since that time, I understand there's been considerable concern voiced from members of the department to bring someone in at that particular level. But we did go through Mr. Bolt's experience, and we had a competitive search, and he had the most experience. He had a very strong interview, and anything else?
Yeah, so I can say Mr. Bolt has 20 years of experience in the construction industry. He's been an operator for 20 years at 3 different companies. During the negotiating process, we started off at step 3, and we negotiated to get to ultimately settled at step 6 through that process. We looked at the current pay of where everyone current highway department is at for pay grade within the maintenance staff. We looked at past experience. We looked at what happened when we converted from the old 3-step pay grid and that we had in place in 2021 and what happened when we converted that and went to 9-step in 2022. So at that time, so when we if you looked at people that were hired had 1 month of experience up to 2 years and 3 months of experience. When we converted to the new pay grade, they were put at step 5, and 6 months later, they moved on to step 6. This candidate's coming in with 20 years of construction experience, so hasn't been at the county, but there has been a lot of experience that he can bring forward to the county. So the market has changed in the last couple of years. There's been it's a lot tougher to get highway departments to find operators, find staff. Inflation's gone up greater than 2.5%, 3%. So we're trying to find that balance of what we can offer, what we can get someone here with. I guess step 6 is where we ended up being at.
It's, looking back at the old grid, it would be on the, instead of at the midpoint, it's high midpoint. But we were looking for it at that experience being, and we used to have a 3-step grid. Well, we don't have a 3-step grid now, we have a 9-step grid. And so based on experience, that's, and negotiation.
So the steps,
Would not have gone higher, that's for sure.
so clarify, back when we used the 3-step, you were at high step, high pay after 3 steps.
Yeah,
Define a step.
yep, so previously when there's 3 steps, so I can talk in 2020 numbers. At step 1, when you were hired on, you were at $21.67 an hour. After 1 year, you had a $2.30 pay increase. And then 2 years later, you get the final step, which was 98 cents at the time. So they had a big jump between year 1 to year 2, and then that smaller jump 2 years later. So after 3 years of employment, they were at the top of the pay grid. I know we have, we're in a difficult time. How do you, balance that new hire? What step do they go on? At this point, step 1 is,
Can I stop you there for a minute, Brian?
yes,
When we implemented this new wage grid, we converted from the step 3 to the step 9 grid. People were placed at,
so, yep, so the placement. for them-
nobody went backwards.
No one went backwards. So the employees that had anywhere from
I'm
one,
talking on pay, not steps. You might have went, it was only a 3-step system. So on pay, nobody went back.
correct, so I'm paying no one went backwards. So if you had anywhere from that 1 day, or in this case, the shortest was 1 month up to 2 years and 3 months, they went to step 5. 6 months later, they were at step 6. If you were at 3 years of employment or longer at the county, you were put on the grid at step 6. 6 months later, you moved up to step 7. And then it's a 1-year increment for those subsequent steps.
So with regard to this position that we're talking about, how many applicants did we have?
This time we had 9.
We had 9 applicants. This individual had the most experience by far compared to anybody else that was applying.
We had two experienced interviews of 2 experienced operators
You only did 2 interviews for out of those.
on the, correct, because there was such a difference in how the ratings.
But prior hires recently starting at step 1 with virtually no experience, step 2 with some experience and need to be trained. Now we're looking at taking an individual with a lot of experience. I'm granted you that he's a heck of an operator. We're moving them up to a step that is the same as people that have been with the county for some time.
What lower than people that have been at the county for
Some
some
people
time.
are in that same category, some people are high.
Nope.
Nobody's in step 6, everybody's in 7.
No, I didn't say that.
And
There's 2 that are below, the rest are above.
Correct.
The 2 were, I believe, were the last recent hire.
2 most recent hires are down at step 2 and 3.
And everybody else in the department at 7 or higher.
Everyone else for the maintenance side, we have 3 that are at step 7, I believe, and the remainder for the maintenance specialist are at step 8. And they will go up to that next step on January 1st. Or sorry, July 1st for
Except.
except for the
people-
two new. the two
Except for the
most-
people
yes.
that, because that don't, their anniversary date is the date they're hired.
And at some
Correct.
point, I wouldn't mind talking about those two positions. For sure, at some point on the side, but
So what's the policy for somebody with a CDL?
Sorry.
With someone with a CDL, is
They're,
there,
they're required to have CDLA.
okay,
You gonna make that?
so even if they got a CDL, there still could be started at step one?
Some have come to us with the CDL that they just. In the past, I haven't looked at all of that for everybody, but some folks have. Just recently gained their CDL, if you will, when at the time of their application, they may have completed a tech program, others. You know, they come at different with,
I mean, if somebody doesn't have a CDL, obviously they're should be at a step one, correct? I mean,
well, in the past, they haven't qualified.
This
you
is-
can't drive a snowplow truck if you don't have a CDL, so.
Yeah, I mean, that was a requirement for the job,
That's what's in the advertising.
minimum requirement.
In
for
order
the
to
job.
apply, you need to have a CDL. Correct?
Yes, I think the only time we haven't, and correct me, is with our,
we've had two positions hired without a CDL. One was the mechanic,
Yeah.
because not all mechanics, depending on what they're doing for a job, they don't necessarily need to have it, so we require that he had it within his probationary period during that first year. Second individual that we hired without a CDL was in the military. If you're an operator at the military, you do not need to have a CDL. You can drive the military equipment. So that
This-
candidate for that hire was the same way, where he had to get a CDL while I was out probationary period. So we did make an exception for that because of veterans preference and stuff. So we did hire someone that way. But so those were the only two hires that we had without a CDL.
For the position that was being offered, CDL is needed.
Yes,
Since the switch from this 3-step to the 9-step. We've only hired 2 people, one at step 1 and one at step 2,
they were both hired at step one, I believe.
both at 1. One at
No.
2.
Was one at step two when they
Yeah.
hired?
this one's at step 3 now.
Yeah, one's at step three, one's at step two now.
This is the first. This is the third hire since we've made the switch.
Yes.
And from my
Not to me.
perspective, I look at it from the perspective that. Jumping all the way up to step 6, yes, he has lots of experience. Yes, he has. A lot of attributes that would come to the county, but step 6. Is a higher step than I can see being reasonable. I personally would only go as high as step 5. That's just my thoughts.
In the grid, I don't have the grid in front of me, unfortunately. What's the difference between step 3 and step 6 as far as dollar per hour?
Step three is looking at 2024 grid, because the employee start to be 2024. So step 3 is $24.83. Step 6 is $27.53. So that's a $2.70 difference.
But do you, just clarify, you're asking about the old grid?
The grid of 2024,
What's the difference between what?
between the step number 3 and step number 6 that's
Okay.
proposed. So I'm just trying to look, I'm thinking in my mind of the step 3 as an offer, but that's why I'm throwing out a number.
We
I think
can't,
That's where
we
we
can't do
started.
that. We can't do that. You guys negotiated. Picked somebody. And yet you come to an agreement. I assuming your recommendation is to hire him at step 6, correct?
That is where our,
We as a board can't sit up here and say, nah, we only do step 5 or 3. We can't do that.
All right, so we can only approve or deny.
Exactly.
Well, I can still say my opinion.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I'm kind of confused.
But
I mean, we couldn't give Pollock a raise, but now all of a sudden we wanna hire somebody at step 6, $2 under Pollock's wages. Why couldn't we give that guy a raise? He kept it 35 years of experience. What's the problem?
I would have loved to.
Well, why didn't we give him a raise?
I was involved with the negotiations between the union when it went from 3 steps to 9 steps and where people got put on the grid. That was a decision through negotiations that I wasn't involved with.
The terms and conditions of employment are negotiated through the collective bargaining process. We had 2 commissioners at that process. It's always easy to. Any contract we have is always going to have hiccups. This one certainly has a few hiccups. But we can't, unless we have a memorandum of agreement with the union that's negotiated outside. And that would be brought forth for some kind of changes. My office nor Brian's office can go against, nor would we ever propose going against what we currently have as a collectively bargained agreement. Now, that's where that agreement, to answer your question, we comply with the agreement, implementation of it.
So was the union brought in?
Pardon me?
Was the union brought in to discuss this? I was told not.
Not for, these are under article, I think believe it's 3, management responsibilities. The union is brought in when we set. There's nothing in the union contract that says this person's at step 6 or prohibits this person from being at step 6. That was purely an analysis by our respective offices of his experience and where others were. All I'm saying, Commissioner, in response to your comment is that if a contract terms are not something that the county wants, then the county can negotiate those terms through the collective bargaining process to negotiate changing those terms.
But you can't do it in the middle of a contract.
I didn't say that. I said that a memorandum of agreement can be struck,
Okay, so what is?
but not with regards to whether we offer this person the job or not. I mean, I agree with you, Commissioner. That's either a vote that you approve our recommendation or give us instruction otherwise as to, or deny it, I should say. I can say if you deny, I'm sorry.
No, but
If you deny it, based upon what I'm hearing from commissioners in your discussion here today, maybe we would be looking at the board saying, recommending or directing us to do an entry level hire, and that's where we're at.
I guess what I'm seeing here is we're concerned with the amount or the step that was decided and how it was, how it impacts both people who've been here for a long time and where we're at. I think we all agree that we need to have the position, but can we, if it gets denied, can we authorize our folks to renegotiate? Is that I'm asking a question. I don't know what the proper step would be.
If you deny this, we can go back to the candidate and attempt to discuss whether we're willing to come to the county for a different amount. But we would go back to the candidate with the information from the board and see what the candidate has to say and what they would accept.
Mr. Burns.
Make a motion to deny the request.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Ask the vote by roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
no,
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
yes,
District 5,
yes. And I'll explain why I said no, if I may.
Yes.
There's nothing in the union contract says that we can't offer anybody so much a step. I mean, there is no there is no cap. But we can enter somebody in. In my way of thinking, we're trying to find the best, most qualified candidates. And if we can get somebody with some experience that's run equipment for 20 years, been in the union for 20 years, that's what we should be doing. I look at it as a value to the crew, to the department. So I get both sides of this argument. But there's nothing in the contract saying that he couldn't do it. Now, to the point of entry level positions. What is the criteria to correct somebody who has been hired at a step one that should have been hired at a step two? I mean, or like for, you brought up David's deal. What's the criteria of having the personnel, the department head to come back and relook at his position and reevaluate the banding, whether to go through Gallagher or DDA or job description? What is the criteria for that?
This isn't a banding question that you're asking.
No, it's two different questions. I get that.
The agreement that we have states that once you're on the grid, it requires 80 hours of the full-time equivalency, 1 year, to get to the next step. So once they're placed there, we do not have the ability to change that placement unless we go back through some kind of negotiation process. That could be via a memorandum of agreement for that specific case. Whether or not a person was, I don't believe we have placed people on their appointment to the county inappropriately, because we really take a very detailed look at their experience that they bring to the table or to the workplace at the time we are offering them the position. And we compare what they have for experience, what they have for then their current set of skill set or license, and et cetera, as to where they would enter into the current contract. At what level. So every department head and I sit down and we really look at who their candidate is and where equitable placement would be as compared to for the particular skill set they bring. So that was more of a commentary that it was an inappropriate, past placements have been inappropriate. Now, if the person is, if the board or if the county wants to enter memorandum agreements with the union, it may very well do so, but that is a negotiated process that is separate from here.
Who makes that decision to do it?
Typically, we do not open that up. Typically, the union brings forth if they believe there has been a contractual violation or needs some kind of clarification. That would be a memorandum of understanding, or if they're asking for a formal review, or we go into negotiations starting next year, what that might, you could, if there is an issue that we want to pursue in more depth and detail, we could do it at that time as well. Or by board determination that you have particular. I just always ask the board to exercise caution where you start making exceptions, that you have all of the information before you start pulling individuals for changes in their pay.
It might be appropriate to review that. existing qualifications of recent hires. Just with where they started, when you make an offer, you're making an offer based on what you hear during, what you see in the resume and what you hear during the interview. Sometimes not everything comes out during that process.
That's true.
If you think that someone has a set level of experience and then you get them in, you find out they have more experience or more knowledge than what you anticipated at the beginning. So there might be a mechanism.
Thinking through this, if that is. I guess if there is a situation where there is one or more individuals that impacts, I would be placing a call, if it's the board's wishes, placing a call to the union representative to have them bring, to get their input as to whether they would like to meet and discuss the matter before we made a determination where we go. Any agreement would then have to go through the local union for vote, I assume, as well as come to the full board for vote.
But as it stands. Action item number 8 or whatever number it was. Denied.
Right?
All this other conversation is about what ifs and this and that.
Well,
It's a done deal.
right, but here's the deal. Sorry, dude. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it gives us a basis for future discussion, gives us an idea of how it's done. I think the question was, how did we arrive at this? And I think someone explained about my thought. Eric?
Problem we're facing right now is our chickens have come home to roost because of inconsistencies in the past. And this is just a commentary on my part. That's where we're at.
What I would like to know or get direction from the board is for future hires. So if the board wants to have a cap of step 5, no matter what experience. Then we should maybe advertise starting pay between this rate to this rate, with advancement up to this rate. Currently the ad says the pay scale is here to here.
So then
So-
we're not gonna get experienced people.
So we might.
All we're gonna
might not
get is
some
people
of-
that with no experience. Or very little.
We may or may not.
Maybe that's what we want. I don't know.
My only hesitancy is that in putting hiring caps, I would hesitate to do that at this point in time because that would be a term and condition of employment that should be negotiated
I agree.
in the
with that.
contract.
That's not.
I
in the
understand the intention, though. That's why I offered, if you're looking at entry level, people that are just new to the career field, doesn't mean they come with no experience, but they are at the lower end. Then our advertising and our posting is very clear that we are looking at that lower end of the scale.
I think we should move on. We got a lot more to go.
Well, do we want to ask? Or can we? Ask you to have them reconsider?
We will go back to the candidate, depending upon what the candidate response is as to where we can go with that. We may be looking at the depending upon their response, we may be looking at our pool of applicants.
My thought, I guess, they could have an applicant that doesn't have as much experience. As a CDL can drive a truck, if he doesn't know how to run a blade or a load or something. We got lots of people that can do that. And then teach that applicant to become a more productive member of the group, but. Start them down here, let them learn the way up. But it's a moot point.
Okay,
So for budgetary purposes, we'll go back and have this discussion and be looking at potentially, if that candidate says no, we'll be looking at the rest of our pool and determine where we can go and get back to the board.
Thank you.
it's number 9 on the action, which was moved from consent, would be hire Lori Oldenbeck as a probationary 0.8 FTE environmental services clerk. B21, step 3, effective 1 January 2nd. 2024 petition on successful completion of background check.
Yes, this is a 0.8 hire. We had a pool of, which is not uncommon for our part-time positions, but a pool of one. We were fortunate that the individual that applied for this position has a lot of public employment experience, and in particular, which includes some supervision experience as well, and includes the being deputy clerk for the city of Lewiston. And so we are looking at a step 3 for this individual. Some of the experiences has some accounting and bookkeeping experience, reconciliation experience, can assist the department with the budget, council agendas and minutes, utility billing, etc. So this person, we are fortunate to have this candidate. We're asking for a step 3. This person clearly is not in an entry level, if you will, but has knowledge of municipal government, not necessarily county government, and some retail management as well.
Person that was previously in this position started.
Trying to think of her experience when she came. I don't believe
She was 67-day employee.
or deputy reporter.
I'm sorry, deputy auditor. I would say.
Yes, she had some experience, as I recall, it was in elections. That she
And other office duties too, so, but she was started at step.
Yes, but I don't think when we look at the experience, the two experiences are,
Considerably different, I thought.
they're quite different. Quite different.
Well, I don't know, I didn't see the resume, so I.
Yeah, I recall the other individual may have had, and she's a valuable employee, but I did not have the experience going into this. We look at this very carefully. We don't do this in an arbitrary manner.
Well, she had worked several times as a 67-day employee in the auditor's office.
And in her current role, she went into her new position as a step 3 to be trained in because of that experience that she gained in the environmental services office.
Well, I'm just getting to the point of consistency here. Brought up. It's the only point I'm trying to make.
I think this experience is far more directly related than the other person's experience was.
So it's a 0.8, it'll be filling in the department. That's been vacant since like September, October was. October.
So was this negotiated, this step?
From 2 to 3, yeah. It wasn't really negotiated. The person just wasn't willing to take the job for it. This is a B21 position, one of the lower
So
clerk level
It's
positions.
similar to the one we just did, that was also negotiated.
Well, we make an offer and they,
Right.
Sometimes negotiations come after an offer. If they accept the initial offer, we don't have to negotiate, so.
I was.
But we just denied somebody because they negotiated to that step.
It's not just they negotiate. I believe a step 3 is an appropriate offer for this individual, considering the experience that they bring to the table in municipal government, knowledge of working in ordinances, not necessarily our ordinances, knowledge of working in with various divisions of government. And this person actually started in law enforcement as a kind of a segue, but over the years changed from that too.
So we have a request to hire a .8 individual into the Environmental Services Department. Step 3. Feeling of the board.
I think step 3 is a reasonable step with the experience level. And it's not going way up on the step scale. So it's a reasonable starting position. With that much experience, in my opinion, it's an all right thing, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it for discussion. Further discussion? Being none, I'd like a roll call vote on it, please.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
I gotta go, guys. Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
Everybody out there, Merry Christmas.
Good. Okay, we're back to number 7 on the action items. Carol, with the budget amendments.
All right, I've given you, just a little bit of information, on some of the projects that we've had. The first page that you have shows the, final costs on the roof replacement of $222,832.57. The final cost on the parking lot was $331,504.95. We had received the Arlen Fault grant for the airport project. Was it last year? And anyway, that didn't pan out, so Brian contacted Kathy Nelson about using it for something else, and we gave her some options of projects that we had in the county. And she preferred that it be applied to the parking lot project. So the $23,175 that we actually received 2 years ago and has been in fund balance is being applied to that. Then the city of Caledonia paid their share this past week. So the total cost of the project to the county was $284,717. There is a $230,000 ARPA allocation. So the balance either just coming from fund balance or specifically or increase the ARPA allocation or use the capital project money for the $54,717. Either way, it's really, doesn't really matter which place it comes from unless you want to just keep the ARPA money all as it is. So then the next sheet is actually an update now with the 2022 fund balances. You can see for each of the funds, I'm including the debt service.
Which,
This one, yep. So you can see we have total fund balances of 17 million. There is assigned, like everything for road and bridge is assigned or committed or restricted. Health and Human Services is the same, debt service is the same. The general fund is the one that has more of the leeway in it. So the unassigned fund balance for the general fund is $6.8 million. If we, it's our policy to maintain 50% of that of our current year levy, and for 2024, those amounts are shown there. And then, it's the whole capital improvement reserve that we've had. It started back in 2012 or 2011. We keep a running balance so that you know what has been allocated from that money. 2023 the board designated the recycling trailer, the roof replacement, which is the 222 from this other sheet. And you've approved the HVAC improvements for the historic courthouse, which the Winona Controls bill is 128,000, and then we need to pay for electrical, so we designated 135,000 to pay for that. Then, of course, we have the MCIT insurance settlement from the historic jail flooding, that's still there. Our 2023 adjusted budget after we made amendments in June is actually a budget surplus of 158,749. So the available fund balance for the general fund is 1,475,27. Road and Bridge, the available fund balance and human services, they are the same. The summary down at the bottom just shows you where we were at January 1st of 2022. And after the financial statements were prepared, those are the changes. County revenue increased by 412,813. Road and Bridge decreased by 234,43. And that they did have some of their fund balance designated, or is that? So theirs did go down because the capital, the building transfers. And then Health and Human Services increased their fund balance by $535,000. The debt service, it's not something we can touch. That's what we are required to levy to pay for our bonds. It's at 105% of the actual payments, which is why we end up having balance there, which will go to pay like the last year's payment. We won't have to levy for that.
This includes the new county facility.
Right. There is no levy for that because it's coming out of the state aid funds.
This is strictly the.
This is
county
strictly the
justice.
jail.
Just the county justice.
We only
Justice.
we did a bond for 3 million for the new highway shop. But
I just didn't know if that was included in debt service.
in the
or
rest
if it
was fund balance, correct?
Right, that's
Right.
why their fund balance has decreased
The
somewhat.
money that we owe on highway shop is part of Road and Bridge. It's not part of debt service.
Well, it is part of debt service, but it comes from the state aid. We certify what our payment is going to be. We send that off to the state and then the money
Okay.
comes from there. So there's no levy involved in,
There was,
state.
because there was. no-
except that we're now using part of our state aid money to pay for that. So projects actually probably cost us a little more locally.
But the debt service and that's,
But we're also, go ahead, sorry.
it's strictly the county justice.
Yes.
Yes, yep, yep, yep.
Mhm.
17.7 million.
Yep.
So that's done in 2029, levied in 2028.
Is it 2020? It's
2029.
levied in
29 and
2029,
2030.
paid in 2030. Well, I'll get you that
I was under the
summary.
impression. you're done. 30%.
for sure.
29 is the last payment.
So last payment in 29 is levied in 28, right?
I'll get that for you for next week. It's always confusing.
That's fine.
Carrying over is
Which it
a,
is.
But you made a comment where we're not gonna, that won't go against the levy, that last payment.
Right, because
Correct.
we'll have levied 105% for each of the,
Yep.
28, 29 years, or so that will cover that final payment. So then the next sheet I've given you is a summary of the ARPA. And I wanted to do this and actually to show where we have allocated money, but we have spent less. So that's the adjusted allocation. We had budgeted or allocated 33,000 for the equipment in the surveyor's office. It only came in at 32,963. So I wanted to make sure that you knew based on that, how much money was available. So that's on the second page. We had allocated 3,241,000. The expenses have actually come in at 3,238,213. So the available ARPA is this 374, 619. You did approve paying for those vehicles out of there. What was the total on those then?
61 something. Exact figure.
So I'll add that to this sheet and probably,
64,990.
64,990.
Yep.
So next week I'll request, actually, we'll update this and request that you approve that, so we have that for our audits. So we can say that, yes, this is exactly what the board has approved for ARPA allocations. There was a question, I guess I was under the assumption that we had approved $300,000 for childcare. But it's more coming that we just approved the 255,000 plus up to $8,000 for the training for the 2 sessions, which has come in significantly less than 8,000. So this 43.2 down at the bottom is probably not really allocated. Or,
Yeah,
Well,
We was initially talked about.
we talked 300,000 as a figure to begin with,
mhm,
and it's correct, it was 255 plus 8,
okay,
so.
but the 8 has come in actually at less, so. we'll
Right,
it looks like
just-
1,800 then?
Well, this number, this 256.8 will be adjusted to what we've actually spent then.
And then moving forward for training, we'll just pull that out of the 255 that WDI is. Being the fiscal.
It was 40, the 43.2 will be the extra, correct?
Well,
Or no?
it's kind of a separate line. It's not really, I wasn't sure on that. So that's why I want the board, I'll take that off. If we are not actually doing the 300,000 and then, so the 374, 619 would be
That's
the
fine.
available less the 64,990.
That's fine with me.
So I will have the board approve that next week as we continue with our budget.
So when you back up to, there's a couple of blank spaces up there. The LaCrescent sidewalk improvement, what's the status on that?
Which one?
LaCrescent County Trunk Highway 6 sidewalk.
That's still in discussion.
Okay, so that 50,000 may or may not happen.
That's correct.
And boardroom
Did we
technology,
vote on that one?
Specifically.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That was that their dump
Yeah.
boats and all that stuff.
I mean, it's not to say that you can't unallocate it.
We can't appeal that?
Well, it's your resolution. If the project isn't coming to fruition, how are you supposed to allocate money to it? Did they have a time frame when it's going to be
They
addressed?
didn't, they looked at having it done this past year and then their finances changed and they postponed it, To be honest, they're looking at grants and the grants aren't coming through like they expect.
Well, maybe,
Well, I started-
maybe we should come up with a resolution to withdraw.
Well, if I
Well,
update this for next meeting and take that $50,000 off and you're gonna make a resolution to adopt this allocation plan,
Okay.
it would be gone.
That's what it is, it's the bump outs, it's a safe walk to school thing and stuff and Elm Street County 6 has got some issues.
Do you need to find out to make sure that they didn't say in a grant, the county is gonna match this amount? I mean, do we need to check with them first before you decide to undo it?
Maybe
I'll-
you should check in.
I'll check with Bill and get that squared away because that's, Bill and Brian are working on that. I'll make a point of that, thank you.
the same thing is true with regard to the boardroom technology. Andy's still working on that, so we don't really know. We
Right. I mean, for
we've spent
that,
80,000, but we don't really know what it's.
for that, I would say probably to keep it in, we have to have it allocated by next year, spent 2026.
Mhm.
And I'm sure
So is
that
it,
could
is it
happen.
allocated for? We don't have to allocate it till end of 24 or beginning of 24?
And
Well, I
I'll
thought.
find out for sure.
By 2024, or so I'm
So-
not positive if that means by the end of
By-
2023, really.
By the
or-
end of this month or
I don't know,
We'll check it.
Yeah. We'll check into it.
but yes, I know spent by
I had talked to Andy about
2020.
the boardroom thing and he said he's still on his list. It's on the bottom of his list right now because of all the stuff he's been going through, so.
Mhm.
And plus, he said it's gonna be all of that 80, if not a little more, if we, depends on what we want,
Mhm.
you know, if we wanted to get a better sound system so we could hear people, you know. So,
Besides the boardroom, this room, there's a new system that he's got. That he's working on. Could be similar in price. It'd be good to know if we have all of 24 to decide how to spend it, or if we gotta have it by next week.
I'll find it for sure. And the SEMCAC, the $20,000, were they awarded that $200,000?
We think so as of Monday.
Okay.
The state has their recommendations online and they are recommending that it go to Houston and Fillmore County, so I believe. We think it's official, but I think Cindy is gonna make sure it's official, but yes, I believe it's coming.
So it'd be great if we could pay that before the end of the year too. Okay, so we'll get that updated.
Valid next week. The same question with regard to the cell phone. Those we paid 22,500.
Because we're just paying 7,500 per quarter,
right,
but that, the whole $90,000 will be spent.
Right.
Mhm.
So we're just doing it quarterly instead of.
Right, they, Selco bills quarterly for all 5 of the libraries, and that $7,500 is added onto that quarterly billing.
$6,000 per county library.
Right.
Just curious how that number came to pass. Thank you. All right.
So then the next kind of a colorful group of sheets. This is our 2023 revised budget after we made adjustments in June for different salary things, different projects. So what I did was I took the 2023 first revised budget, compared it to the activity through November, added what we had for the partial month of December to come up with changes that we should probably make, just so, said it's better to have our budget closer to the actual numbers. So our variances aren't so much when we go to do our financial statement. It just makes it easier. So if you run down the line, the red ones are like increasing our to the good. The black ones are, taking away from that. So, we had adjusted our interest income because of the switch to the banks and the higher interest rates to be $250,000, and it looks like we'll be coming in more at $335,000, so just adjusting those items just to be a little more realistic. We had budgeted insurance refund at $45,000. We only got 27. The fees in the recorder's office, you can see, are adjusted down. There just isn't the recording that there was for 2021, 2020 and 2021. You can see on the 01112, that's where the two projects are. So the budget money is put in and the fund balance applied because we're using ARPA money or we're using the capital projects money, so that it doesn't. The only difference that it affects right now is that $54,000. So, if you decide you want it to specifically say that, but I think actually it's fine the way it's reflected there. Like, and some of the other ones too, the fees for the jail, we had decreased it. We still have prisoners coming in, so it's going back up. Some of the expenses had been lowered, but they're still there because we still have the prisoners coming. Just making adjustments to make it look more like what we're actually spending. So all of those adjustments actually give us another $223,702 in our budget surplus for the general fund. So the total for the year is 382,450. To the good. So something, possibly in setting the levy for next year. We've increased our fund balance, consistently over the years. We want to actually maybe kind of take that amount and
The 7,
drop the 7.
5 or something.
So. What Bob just said there. So we're 382 to the good. Our 50%. Not written in stone, but reserved. It's 4.265 million.
That's at the 7%. If we levy that 7% increase.
Oh,
for-
that's with the 7%
Right.
levy increase in there.
Mhm. So that actually would go down.
Well,
If our
The
levy went down.
unassigned fund balance is 6,805. Right?
Mhm.
So. That would go down also.
No, that's from our audited 2022 statement.
Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong figure. So I should be looking at the 1.47 million.
Right.
That's with the 7% levy increase in there.
Mhm.
And that's not, is that including the 382 then?
No,
All right. So,
it includes. See, the 158,749 is what we had previously.
mhm,
So now it's 382,451. So it's not the total amount that would benefit us. It's the
okay,
223,702 would get
223.
added to that.
instead of the 150, yeah. All right,
Well, plus,
But if we got a 382, and let's say we want to take the 7% down to 5%. It's $142,000. That'd be $284,000 off of 382.
Right.
We'd still be increasing fund balance a little less than with the 5% increase instead of the 7%
we could even go another percent to 4.
drop.
We need to have. a
Because you
little
got
bit-
it, but we're at the 50, we're still way about 50%.
Yeah.
We did that.
It's like she said, we've been increasing our fund balance a little bit more every
You know what I
year
mean, do we?
than
Yeah.
anticipated, so. If we went down to 4%, took an extra $142,000 and change out of there. We'd be dropping our fund balance by $47,000.
Again, which on that number isn't a lot.
Which is a lot. From that
Wow.
point, whatever.
Mhm.
That's-
yeah, and two, in calculating the taxes, you drop your levy 4%, however much that is. It's not really, it's not like you are going to see a significant change in your tax bill. Just because it's spread out over so much net tax capacity. But, if you don't have to levy it. Should you?
We've got
The,
plenty of fund balance in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. We have fund balance that we can utilize.
Yeah, that's right.
That's already been paid in by the taxpayer.
I like to use up fund balance, but I don't want to use all of it. We gotta be
well, no,
cautious.
we can't use.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna use it, but we're above our 50% threshold.
Mhm.
So we could easily drop to 4% instead of 7.
I-
It would
I
be a
think-
benefit to the entire county now, just like you said,
Mhm.
but especially the farmers that took that 5%.
That's what I'm getting, that was my next point, is that there's been
Mhm.
valuations changes and Green Acres taken away and.
The one thing that. What I might comment to is, what about the commercial properties that were. Reduced too much? Looking for, it.
You can just,
no, okay,
What do you mean?
no, but the
The
commercial,
values?
the values, the tax, or if I recall, we had some discussion back when we were going through this. And the commercial properties had their rate changed here recently. That makes sense. Remember?
The tax capacity rate?
Yeah.
I think what happened was they were given a higher break to not have to pay the state tax. Right,
Okay.
the state tax portion, because it used to be the first 100,000 was not, the state rates weren't applied to that, but I think that went up to $250,000.
That's what, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, it didn't change our portion of it. It was what gets paid to the state.
So next week, when we do the final budget assessment, we can put it on there, take 3% off, and 7, make it 4.
Okay.
And
Sure.
we're just lowering our reserves,
Mhm.
our unfunded fund balance, or undedicated fund balance by a little bit,
Not a lot,
but 50,000, something like that,
50,000.
without making any adjustment.
Technically, we could do a 0. Still be fine.
You
well,
know,
gotta be cautious not to go too far.
Well, we'd still be having the fund balance. But
Okay,
given the
just-
inflation, given the,
because I have to get the calculations all done so we. can
given the
get resolutions
inflation,
done.
what's going on and what I see coming down the road that we're gonna have to pay for mandatory paid leave, all the other things. Our contribution to that,
So actually what was it called? The one that starts January 1st?
that's the,
Sick and-
I wrote it here, it's the paid, it's sick and safe time.
Sick and safe time. That has to do, that's not the one that starts in 2026, where
No.
there's an actual, kind of like a split like the FICA, the PERA. This is actually anyone who works 80 hours in a year needs to be given sick and safe time. And I mean, like, we pay, we have 3.7 hours per pay period. So whatever that factor is, per hour, we would have to either do that or, come up with some kind of a plan, but they have to get 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours worked. The minimum, or is it and they have to get at least 48 hours a year. So this affects all of our drop site employees, not all of them. All but 6, I think, have worked 80 hours, over 80 hours in a year. So we probably should be having some kind of a policy going into effect.
We
How we're
need,
gonna
we
address
need to
that.
have a policy, we need to have
Mhm.
personnel. HR work on a policy, because we gotta figure that out.
And
Yeah, we gotta have it figured out in what, 2 weeks here?
Yeah.
Next week.
starts
actually.
January 1st.
Yeah, so we need to get it figured out by next week.
Mhm.
And the 1 hour per 30 is an accrued time. They can draw.
Right, so,
That would
one
be a
Saturday,
payroll expense.
they get sick at the drop site, they have sick time. To get paid.
But the sick time would be their regular pay. Where the expense comes to us is to replace that person.
Right.
And pay them
Mhm.
to replace.
Because we'll
Like
be paying the
double
sick
dipping.
time and we'll be
Which,
paying the
which is
person.
gonna be really challenging because we can't staff that in positions anyway.
And
But we can thank
It's-
state legislature for that.
well, it's something that the board needs to be addressing is the drop
Yeah.
sites, because we have retirements coming up. We can't get people to work there. How? You don't want to come 2
Maybe we
years
need
from
to-
now and go, oh,
Consider what Fillmore County's doing. They have unmanned drop sites. I don't wanna even think about that one.
no,
I mean, that's
Well-
what they do.
I mean, if they do it. Does it work?
Does it work? Exactly.
I think you have to,
County's got unmanned, they only have the one in Preston where they actually accept.
Mhm.
the
So
big
they
stuff.
don't have the drop sites throughout the county. Then.
I think they have drop sites, but it's specific to what the drop sites is
Take, right,
Brush.
Garbage and recycle,
Right.
only the brush, the tires.
right, right.
All that stuff all
Yeah.
has to go to Preston.
Yeah. Whereas we have them all over. We got Caledonia, Spring Grove.
And I'm not sure what Winona does. But it's just something to
Winona is,
look at.
they pay for your dumpster or whatever.
Maybe we gotta look at closing one site and adding a person to each of the others, so we've got 3 people. So if somebody's missing, you always have 2.
Yeah, I think that's probably a conversation to be had with the department.
Which one?
We need a motion to approve the 2023 budget amendments.
Yes, we do.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we don't.
These are amendments.
Cruise on through section.
But then next week we'll be doing the actual.
The actual 2024 budget
Right.
and the 2024 levy.
I make a motion to approve the revised amendments to the 2023 budget.
Second.
Second. Okay, we've had a lot of discussion. Any more discussion on this? It's. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried.
So all of these items that. I've gone through all these line items and looking at places that we can save money. I really don't have to bring those up
For 2024.
for 2024.
Yeah, you can send them to me.
You can still bring them up.
Mhm.
Maybe go down to 3 yet, Bob.
I didn't find it.
And I guess I'd like to get these entered and then, that whole 142 page document that you have, so you could kind of see how that goes too. Because some of these were adjusted for this year, they could probably be adjusted for next year also. Some of them look like, maybe it was taken into consideration when the amount was entered. I'll also add, all the changes that were approved for the sheriff, the county attorney, and just
Bringing
one.
my changes to offset those improved, those additional expenses that we talked about.
Mhm. And one thing to note is that the zoning, the technical clerk, the
Yeah,
BP
I
one,
was gonna mention.
that was that's a reduction, actually, because it was a full-time
I
position.
know, I get that.
So now it'll be a 0.8.
I understand it was a one.
Mhm.
Who's on the law enforcement? Committee. Dewey, is that you?
Yeah, and you. This is you and me.
Yeah, but I've talked to the sheriff with regard to the juvenile hold
Yeah, I've been waiting on the
VOC. There's a good potential that that'll come to pass.
Okay.
Don't have to do much to the jail, mostly it's screening. Except from a separation point of view, the juveniles versus the adult. There will be some additional training of staff in order to get juvenile, treating juvenile. But that could be a definite revenue benefit as far as the jail is concerned.
And along that same line, I commented to Fillmore County and it's the other one that was at the table there, anyway. He says, we'll take a bed right away. I mean, there's a
reserve it.
need. Wabasha County was the other one that was at the table there, so we were just discussing it.
It's still in the,
Planning.
it's still in the planning, but it appears that we don't have to do too much to the jail itself.
Gotta get that final approval from somewhere up above
DOC
there.
up above.
But you would have to do, there'd be cost of training,
Right, there would be a cost to
And-
get it stuck.
change of job description as well.
More than like to be dealing with juveniles.
And then what about liability?
Well, we have a liability when we house adult prisoners. I would
Is
imagine.
it different for juveniles?
It might be a little different with liability. but Can't see that being a whole lot.
I
It's
would-
just, all I want to do is report that there is.
On the
potential
facility
for-
part, yeah.
What it actually costs us besides that,
Demand is definitely there.
what?
The demand is definitely.
Oh, gosh, yes.
This is just an 8-day hold, not a.
So why didn't Fillmore County and Winona County, when they built their new jails, why didn't they do something for juvenile?
idea.
There's gotta be catch. There's gotta be a catch somewhere. Because like Homestead County got out
You
of it,
gotta have your separate wings and your separate
and
pods and whatnot.
which they could have done in
They
there.
could have.
Yeah,
We've got an abundance of pods. We're gonna use them going over.
Hopefully it'll work. Okay, we're done with the action items, moving on to public comment. Up there, any commission reports? But,
No,
Mr. Burns?
Oh, let me look. Look at this. I got nothing to report.
Woo!
was as busy as mine the last day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up about we need to get going on a sick and safe time policy for 2024. Need that by next week.
Hmm.
Um,
I guess we didn't need, I didn't realize it was that needed before. The year can be done during the year. Did you find that?
They
out?
wanted to have something in place, cause I know Hoka voted on theirs at the council meeting.
I've been reading that too, and we haven't seen anything yet from HR, so.
All right,
Mandatory paid leave starts at 26, just a reminder, so that's something we need to consider down the road. There's gonna be some planning commission vacancies coming open in 24. Ed Hamel and Larry Hafner are termed out and getting off, so I just wanted to thank them for their service on those boards.
To replace them like Hafner's over by the Crescent. And Hummel, do they gotta be in the same districts?
Amelia in her email. Right now, we got quite a few from District 4, which is over Violet Crescent and Mocha. It would be preferable if we could find somebody outside of those districts, because those are already well represented. You know, Ed Hamel's from over here by Eitzen. Larry Hafner came from the District 4 area, so it'd be,
Currently, there's 3 in District 4.
Yep.
1 in District 2, 1 in District 3. Commissioner District 5. What they're looking at, they'd like to see a plus on, you know.
I think Ed come from District 5.
Yep, yeah, there's. District 5 there.
So. Need to direct HR to advertise for that. I don't think they have that I've seen, so. They need to advertise for that.
Do they log out the first of the year?
so it's on the year calendar, not anniversary or nothing like that, so it's.
And for Larry Hafner. He also was on the Board of Adjustment as a representative from the Planning Commission. So there's a vacancy that needs to be filled as well, but. I wish Tess was here, but I had a question about. Can a board member, see, we have, Greg is the member. As for the board on the Planning Commission. Can he be on the planning? He can't be on the Board of Adjustment though,
No.
because that's a quasi judicial role. So a commissioner cannot be on that board. So it has to be somebody from the Planning Commission side. All right.
Does it have to be planning commission or can it be an
No.
independent?
I believe it has to be, somebody representing the Planning Commission side. Yeah.
Cause there's multiple people that are not on the planning commission, and then there's one has to represent the planning commission.
Or,
That's how we did it in Crescent.
yeah, there's 4 that are. Well, 3, I should say.
Okay,
But should thank Ed and Larry for their service on serving their 3-year terms.
yeah, they got a long time.
I mean, I'm not a fan of term limits for those positions because It's hard to find somebody to fill those positions and it takes time to learn the ropes on that,
Right.
but that was done years ago during the controversial times, so I think we're stuck with it.
All right. Anything else, Eric?
No, that's it.
Okay, I got a couple of things. Tomorrow I have a solid waste meeting with La Crosse County Policy Board. Going over there at 9 o'clock. I want to commend a couple of our folks. First of all, Lucas, for all of the efforts he did to call it diffuse or cover the issue of assessing and the tax deal, because as we saw last Tuesday night, it was not as we thought it could have been. And he did a lot of things to educate the people, which is important. With educated public, it makes it easier. Also, I want to commend Polly. I had a person comment to me the other day, and he was on a Friday afternoon still working on something. And the individual said, "You're not supposed to be calling me at this time of day. You're supposed to be," and she was doing above and beyond duties to take care of that issue that he thought was very important. And little things like that, I think we need to recognize, and she did a great job and represented the county on that. So those two folks, and we got great employees all over, but those, when they get a highlight, we should talk about it. Other than that, I don't have anything else. We've done the public comment. Anybody up there? Nobody here, so I entertain a motion to adjourn.
No one.
A second,
Second.
no discussion, we all say yes. Merry Christmas, everybody,
Yeah.
please, enjoy the holiday.